You join me with a cat drinking water from a fishbowl and a small computer. Now this computer's got filthy panels on the side, so I'm going to clean it the best I know. And later on we're going to blow some speakers. Also might clean my flip-flops and use a non-dishwasher soap in the dishwasher. A very bad idea, but trust me, I'm a professional. So this is what we're working with. It's an HP t5550 with a single core VIA processor. It's got 1 gig of RAM and 512 megabyte of SSD storage, which I am upgrading here with a WD 120 gigabyte SSD that I just broke out of its case in a previous video. Sitting a bit tall, but we're going to get creative with that later on. Let's check in on those panels. Smells like hand wash soap, but it looks like it's doing the trick. And it came out pretty good. Now I didn't want to use dishwasher soap because it could be quite abrasive and discolor the plastic, so this came out pretty good. And these panels are also reasonably good considering this computer. I've had quite a few of them, and the plastic tabs on these panels usually break off rather easily, so I was lucky with this one. So next up, let's power on this computer and see what's actually going on. I'm going to go with a DVI to an HDMI connector and run it on this 51-inch Samsung Plasma TV. What's that?
Schmousy.
Ah, yes, we need to add a keyboard, else we won't get into the BIOS. Thanks. Let me profusely hit the delete key to get into the BIOS. But that didn't happen because one, I didn't have the TV on the correct HDMI. There we go. And two, this BIOS is F10, not delete. So this is running Windows CE right now on that 512 megabyte hard drive. So let's restart from Windows CE and see what we can see in the BIOS. There's nothing else we can plug into it. No. So welcome to the biggest AMI BIOS, the 51-inch AMI BIOS. And for the life of me, I couldn't get this to fit. The screen fit option was disabled on this TV. So I'm going to have to work with a cropped view in text mode. But yeah, we can see it's running BIOS 1.03, processor, everything's there. And on the website we see there is a BIOS update available, so we'll do that later on. So our panels have dried off since, and we'll be reassembling this right at the end of the video. So, software. I want to start off with MS-DOS 6.22, and I will write the disk images to these floppies. The money you see there is because I sold that 51-inch TV. So I'm writing the DOS images using floppy image. Look at that blazing speed. Right, ready to install. And as always with USB plugs, it always goes in the third way around. And it picked up our USB floppy drive and it's ready to boot. So this is the MS-DOS installer, and initially I just want to quit out of this to get to a DOS prompt so I can update the BIOS. So I'm just going to quit out of the installer. And bad news. Right, okay, let's install DOS then and do it from an installed version of DOS. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's format this drive. What the... I have never seen an error like that. Yep, still there. That error is not going away. So I thought maybe it's because Windows CE has got some weird file format going. So I'm going to boot with this Windows 98 disk and F disk, the C drive. Lovely floppy loading noises there. Yeah, I think we want to use up all the size of this SSD. And I'm just going to do a quick format with a system transfer to the C drive just for good measure. Well, while we're here, let's update that BIOS. And there it is, version 1.05, and this changed absolutely nothing, but I'm OCD. So since we are in DOS, let's run test drive 3. Okay, insufficient memory. Now that's going to be conventional memory, but it did prompt me to update or upgrade the memory in this machine from a 1 GB module to a 2 GB one that I had lying around, because inevitably I think we're going to have to go with Windows on this. 2 GB. And it's present, that's good. Let's try once more. There is the BIOS screen in case you're wondering the speed the memory runs at. And now I've got my USB CD-ROM drive. We're going to try and load FreeDOS. Well, that doesn't look legit. Invalid opcode. So maybe this processor just doesn't support DOS? What I do know is on the previous model I had with the dual-core version of this processor, it ran Windows 10 pretty nicely. It is a 64-bit processor, so let's go with Windows 10 64-bit. And no. So this computer is really putting up a fight, so let's go with Windows 7. That's the last resort. So seeing as we only have 2 gigs of RAM, I opted for Windows 7 Starter Edition, and it actually worked. So here I am installing the S3 graphics driver. Looks good. Let's restart. Some more specs. It boots up just fine. This Windows is currently not activated, so I guess that's the next order of business. Now I did try a valid Windows 7 key that I got off my MSDN, but did not work, could not activate it online, so I don't think Microsoft is actively allowing this. So then I guess we just turn to piracy here. And that actually did work. Cat agrees. Yeah, we're pirates now. So let's have a look at that S3 graphics screen toys, and it is pretty good. It detects that the monitor is on DVI, and it allows you all your standard adjustments. Even detects the correct monitor model, some 3D settings. Yeah, this is pretty neat. I'm impressed. And it's running on PCI Express, so that's cool. I think that is the link between the Northbridge with the graphics chip and the actual VIA processor. So let's exit out of that. Here you can see some specs on the CPU. It alternates between 800 MHz and a GHz with a 4 to 5 times clock multiplier. Windows test score is not that good, but I'll run it again. No cache data detected, HP motherboard, but we already know that. It does have PCI Express 2.0, which is great. Our DDR memory is running at 400 megahertz, so that would make it DDR3 800, I guess. No SPD data, but it does detect that there's only one slot. We've already seen the VR graphics, and this thing is taking forever. So I loaded Boink on it to do some folding at home, and with that ice brick on the processor, we could get it down to below 50 degrees under 100% load. And there it is, crunching some numbers in Boink. With that single core processor currently working on a COVID-19 task. So this is the product that you may remember from way back, a very cool 3D demo in 64 kilobytes, which generates most of its textures and sound. So that's why it is so small, and it actually runs pretty well on this processor. It's actually a blast from the past to see this running. So I'm just gonna fast forward through this because I'm running this at max volume on this Philips monitor's internal speakers. These speakers have not been used in a very, very long time. So inevitably, when the bass kicks in, upload the speakers. Take a listen. And it's gone. Blown to shreds. Good job, me. It does sound terrible, but that didn't stop me. I kept on using these speakers because I've got nothing else. Let's try some games. This is Insane Off-Roader, and this game runs remarkably well on this little processor. I've got everything on, shadows, the works, running it in 640 by 480, although I did later on bump it up to 800 by 600, and the gameplay was still smooth and nice. This is a game from 2001, so it definitely should be running good on this, but I was still impressed and I did enjoy it, except my gameplay is pretty terrible. Oh, I just missed it. Damn it, Liz. Oh yeah, take that. That's for stealing my game. Unreal Tournament works very good as well. I did try this using the S3 Metal graphics, but that didn't work. So this is just plain old Direct 3D. And I got owned. So Unreal, it works. Medal of Honor based on the Quake engine, not so much. All these intricate details, foliage, leaves and stuff, not playable. I did actually try that at a LAN party once. This processor in Windows unfortunately is so weak it can't even get the speed test up to the max speed of the line. I've got a 200 megabits line, but this thing is struggling to even break 100 megabits. You'll see there it gets totally owned. GTA 3. This ran pretty good. I also bumped it up to 800 by 600, and with the occasional stutter, the game is actually playable. This intro sequence is a bit jerky, but not too bad. So yeah, as I said, the game is very playable, very smooth. This is also a game that came out in 2002, I believe, so it is to be expected. I did play it on a much higher end machine back in the day, and it played a lot smoother with better graphics, but you know, considering what we're dealing with here, this is impressive. Hard drive performance not that great on this controller, but at least it works. And there is the creative trick to make it fit. I just bent the SATA port on the motherboard back a bit so I can fit the lid, and it did fit. Hopefully it still boots after doing that. But let's screw it in and give it a try. Cool. It actually still picks up the hard drive in this BIOS screen that I've slowed down and still can't read. Assembling this is very tricky. I put in everything in the wrong order. You should put these black side panels on last. I did that first, and that little spec sheet, that black thing that you can pull out at the back, needs to go on the other side. So for the life of me, I couldn't fit these panels correctly. That's why I sped this up like 30 times, because it was a massive waste of time. But in the end, I got everything in the right place, screwed it together, and this is what we have. A very neat looking thin client computer running Windows 7 with acceptable performance if you're doing light tasks and some of the period correct games. But all in all, I think a pretty cool build, and I had some fun with this. Yeah, looking good. But the performance is not good. On Boink you can see 150 credits per day. If you compare that to my low power AMD A10, it's almost 20 times better. So that's it. This was a very cool build. I totally destroyed the speakers in that monitor, but this computer is now being used by someone that needs it and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Maybe in future I'll make another video of my blunders and messing around with old computers.